What is up, everyone? Steven here from TechMaker.tv. In this episode, we're going to keep going with our blogging application that we started a couple days ago, and we're going to fix a few problems and make a few small changes. If you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Let's go ahead and get started. This should be a pretty quick episode. So one thing that's kind of going wrong right now with our back end area where you create content is you can drag and drop stuff. So we can do two things. We can click on things, we can edit content and then save it, and then we can also drag and drop. But once we drag and drop, if we click in, the editor area is kind of messed up. And I've been trying to figure out exactly what's going on with this, and I have a pretty decent idea. So if we refresh the page, now it goes back to normal. So what happens is when we drag and drop something, essentially Cable Ready, which is a technology behind the scenes of Stimulus Reflex, is actually sort of re-rendering the elements somehow. I'm not a full-on expert on the topic, so I won't get too specific. But when that happens, some of the elements aren't getting put back in place properly for some reason. And I've been trying to dig in and figure out exactly what's going on, and I haven't quite nailed that down yet, but I did find a simple hack that we can add to our code, which will solve the problem in the meantime. So to get this working, we can go down here to our elements reflex, and essentially all I want to do is add a quick instance variable here saying @halted equals true. And this is, I'm going to go ahead and leave a comment and say this is a hack, might break with future versions of Stimulus Reflex. So essentially what I did is I've been reading through the code base on Stimulus Reflex, and I found this instance variable, and essentially what this does is this stuff above will go ahead and execute, and then setting this instance variable according to the source code will essentially prevent all of the rest of the rendering from happening. So everything essentially just updates right here, and I'm going to go ahead and save this, and then nothing gets redrawn on the screen. And so that's kind of fine because everything on the screen is already in the position it should be in, so nothing really needs to be changed. So let's refresh really quick, and then let's give this a try again. So we can click and see that this works, drag and drop, and now everything works as it did before, no problem. And you can see here that actually this may actually be a little bit better because it actually maintains this state. So if we redraw, let's actually comment that out and just see one more time what's happening here. So let's go ahead and activate both of these, and then let's drag and drop and see what happens. And you see how it snaps back into the previous state, and then when we click, it obviously doesn't work. So in this case, we kind of just like this update to happen, but we don't want to redraw the screen. We want to just keep this state as it is. So I think that's, sorry for bouncing around so much, just want to make sure I save. I think that's kind of an okay little hack for the moment until I figure out a better solution. So once I have a better solution, I will post a video explaining it, but for now this should get you working again if you're following along with this, and should at least make it function a little bit better. Okay, so just a couple of other small changes that I want to make. So in the edit page, if I can spell that properly, I want to go ahead and switch this from a 3-column and 9-column layout to a 4 and 8. And again, this is very minor, but this was just kind of bothering me that the stuff on the left feels a little squished. So this gives you a little bit more of a better proportioning, I think, if that's a word. I also want to fix this. So in a future episode, we may just totally restyle this, but for now I'm going to take away whatever. I think there's a Bootstrap class on here that's making that have the border around it, which looks a little odd to me. So we should be able to go into our form here, and I bet this has, yeah, this has a class of form control. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that, and let's see what that looks like. So that's a little bit better, just kind of doesn't stand out as awkward as much. And then one other thing that I forgot to do in the last episode is actually style this page. So let's go ahead and do that. So if we pop back over into the code, let's open up this new page here. And all I'm going to do, let's look at the edit really quick and see how that starts. So I don't need any grid structure on here. Really, I just want to have one big box. So I'm just going to say div class equals card, div class equals card body, and then I'll pull these up into the card body. And I'm going to knock this size down to be something like a H4 and then give it a class of card title, I think is the correct class there. And I want to use the same kind of uniform styling that we have here on the other page. So then we'll say class btn secondary, I think is what that is. Let's check that out. No, we have btn dark. And then what's it's got an MB3. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. That may just fix everything by itself. It's interesting because we have this this button is spanning this entire width. Maybe we actually should go ahead and put it in essentially a grid. So row COL MD4. Let me just copy these. So this is going to look a little strange potentially, but let's try it out after we put it in here and see what it looks like. Okay, so let's see. What am I missing here? Oh, I wanted to do one other thing that I just noticed while I was looking around. I've got this current image thing sitting here, and it's kind of showing you nothing because there is no image. I think we need to actually bump that in there so that it doesn't print that out if there's no image. So let's check that out now. So now it'll look a little more, well, you know what? We need to do one more thing to get that really uniform. Because what I want to happen, I guess, is I want this to look essentially identical so that you're on the new post page and you create a new post and then everything just appears on the right. So I'll show you what I mean. So we can actually copy this or just cut this, new post, and then we'll get rid of that H4. So now let's try to create a post testing this out. And you see that it just kind of flickers a little bit and then the stuff on the right shows up. So I think that works a little bit better. I mean, it wasn't styled at all before, so now it definitely looks better than that, but I think that's okay like that. So let's just leave it. So one thing I also noticed, which this screen actually sort of leads perfectly into, is there's no indicators about what we should do over here. We need some kind of empty state that says, hey, click on these icons at the top if you actually want to get something going here. So let's go over to our edit screen, and let's come down in here and say, so inside of this unordered list element stuff, or just above that rather, let's say if at post.elements.none, we'll do something, and then we'll say else, like that. I'm going to grab everything inside of this unordered list, just tab that in, and then add another end down here. Okay, and if you've been watching me for a little while, you'll know that I still haven't fixed my syntax highlighting, so I'll get to it eventually. So what I want to do is create a div, and I'm going to give it a padding of 5, and then I think it's going to be text center, and I think I want to just say something like, well, how can I do this? So we'll say H2 maybe with a class of, what's the color class? I think it's just, let me go check Bootstrap really quick. So let's do Bootstrap color classes. I know what it is for background. I don't remember what it is. So it's text. So I'm going to do text secondary, I think. So we'll do text secondary. And then I want to add an icon here. So we'll say iClass equals, what icon should I put? Let's look. Font Awesome. What's like something we could use for like maybe something that's like a comment? I don't know. I want something that's like, hi, you know, here's a tip. Maybe I can search for tip. No, I don't want a campground. Suggestion. Let's do a quick Google suggestion icon. Let's see what people say. Like a light bulb? Maybe a light bulb makes sense. Light bulb. Let's just go with light bulb. Cool, so we can copy that and then paste that here. And then below that we'll do a p tag and say click the icons above to add elements to this post. Let's go see what that looks like. Just kind of randomly threw all that in there. So undefined method element. Okay, so need an S right there. Try that again. I need to, so that's actually not working because we do have an element that's been added. It's just a new initialized element. It's not actually persisted in the database. So what we can do is give this a code block here and say element dot persisted like this. So it's going to say if there are no elements where the element is persisted, then show that. Okay, so that looks pretty decent. Let's maybe make that a P4. It's a little bit big as it is. And let's see, what else can we do to make that? I think that's fine. I'm not gonna like over design this right now. I think that's, click the icons above. Let's see, click the icons above to add elements to this post. I think that's clear enough, right? Like, I think that's fine. Let's leave it there. So I think that's about it for this episode. I've got a few other updates which I'm going to put into part 3. And then I got a couple of other more feature-oriented videos I'm going to tack on the back of that. So we're probably going to have realistically like 5 episodes in total that deal with getting this sort of admin author backend set up, and then we'll move on to building out the front end. So this is going to be a pretty long series. So if you're interested in this, give the video a thumbs up. It helps me know that this is kind of stuff that you like, and then also subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date with what's going on. All of that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching up to this point, and I will talk to you next time.